Hi and welcome to Manned Up Conversations, where we connect with evolving men to discuss issues around masculinity and manhood, and also provide tools to help us be better for our society.
This type of conversation, I think in society are treated as just a by the way type of conversation. So we must wait first for a male to beat up a female or kill someone, then we resuscitate, we start that talks again. What are we talking? Then people like myself go on those podiums nationally and we go and we talk about it's wrong to do this. But what programs, what are you doing 365 days a year in terms of dealing with this particular problem or addressing this particular problem and finding possible solutions? So there are no tangible solutions that both government and the private sector are actually, that I'm, from my point of view, that are actually really focusing on addressing this particular problem that we have. Look, from a Midvaal municipality point of view, it's something that we talk about all the time. To say, but as much as I talk about government on a broader scale, the question is also to me to say, but what are you doing?
So here we go, man. Such a pleasure to be here today, man. Drove all the way to the Midvaal from Midrand. I came to see my brother, Mr. Peter Teixeira, who's the mayor of Midvaal. But I think today we're taking you out of your mayoral seat for a bit, man. Just getting to know you as a brother, as a father of three, and just a good man in general, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kauchela, and welcome to the top performing municipality in South Africa.
Okay, we have to get it right. So not just Midvaal, it's the
not
top
just
performing.
Midvaal, yes, top performing, one of the best in the country.
Sure.
And I'm sure you must have experienced that coming into Midvaal, that you are in a different setup or different area.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not taking anything away from you coming from Midrand, but yes, no, welcome.
Man.
Thank you for having me on your show.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, when Tuto reached out and said, hey, you're interested in speaking to Mr. Peter Teixeira, and I was like, I don't know if politics is the way I want to go, but I've seen quite a huge need for people in your position, especially, to reach out and just be seen in a lighter kind of version, Yes. I will always see you in all of these suited up interviews with top brass people, and then speaking on policy and all kinds of things. Yes. But I think one of the bigger things to look out for, obviously, we are in Men's Month, which is November, or Men's Health Month, however you want to call it. One of the things, being a man yourself, is we also want to encourage, ordinary men on the ground to kind of take care of themselves and their health and that kind of thing. So that's what we want to unpack in this interview. Yes. But I mean, before we get into all of that, you are a father of three, Yes. One of the most wonderful, I think, how can I call it, a rewards for a man, one of the most prestigious positions for a man, right, is to be a father. So how has that experience been for you?
Look, it's going very well. As you have rightfully said, I've got three children. My eldest being 15 years old, so she's a teenager. And then I've got two boys. So second born is 10 and the youngest one is 4 years old. So I've got my hands full, but it's good being, I'm enjoying being a father, if I may put it that way. And I must say, as a politician, at times, we neglect our duties as, being a father to our children. And, for example, my second born, my son, he has his bicycle there at home, which he enjoys riding. And he's been asking me, Dad, when are you fixing my bicycle? It's got a puncture. So I haven't gotten to it yet. And, I really feel bad when I get home at 6 in the evening. And it's too late. I can't get to fix it or take it to someone that can fix it.
But you do know how to fix it, though.
Look, I do know. I'm a bicycle fan, big bicycle fan. I grew up basically riding bicycles. So it's taken after me. But it's good being a dad, a loving dad. I love my children. And, I just feel that I should make time or I should spend more time with them and so forth. And I think maybe it may be a general problem with people like myself in these positions, that we're so occupied with our daily work that we actually forget being a parent to our children. So one of the things that I've actually committed to my wife is that, over this festive season, I'm going to spend more time at home, try to ensure that I do spend time with kids and get to that bicycle, get to fix that bicycle and so forth. So yeah, being a parent is awesome and I'm enjoying it.
Man.
And the children are growing up and so forth. Yeah.
No, I love that, man. And you spoke of your wife now. I mean, a huge thing also a challenge in our country or just in globally. I think it's we have a lot of mothers, we have a lot of fathers, but we don't have enough people who stay together, or married, or, whether maybe unmarried, but choose to stay together for the sake of the children or whatever. So how's your marriage life been? Are you still with your wife? How long have you guys been married?
Look, Kaukele, we've been married for 15 years.
Wow. Okay.
So I got married at an early age with my wife. And I felt at the time, which I now,
yeah.
This is the time of this woman. And we had my daughter, my firstborn. And, we felt that it was the right step. I wanted to start off, I've always wanted at the time to start off a family. And I just felt with Refilo, who is my wife, that she's the right person.
Yeah.
She's respectful. Not to say the others are not respectful, but
sure.
Yeah.
No,
in the Vaal, in our region, we are close to the Free State. So Basotho abangata kamona. So I've been exposed to the southern Sesotho woman, if I may put it that way. So and the point is that I felt the time was right, and I wanted to start a family, and we felt that marriage is the right thing to do.
Man.
Yeah. Because we make mistakes in all honesty as men. Man. Hey,
exactly.
I feel good to now shati sometimes. I don't know about yourself,
yeah.
But I just felt not basically. I almost said to be committed, you've got to be married. No, it would be unfair of me to say that. But I've always, as I've previously mentioned, I've always wanted to start off a family. I wanted to settle down, even from a younger age. Most people have said I was very mature for my age, because some of my friends at the time, they were still enjoying themselves and still partying over the weekend and having a good time. But here I was saying that now I want to start off a family. I want to get married. Okay. And I want children. I want my kids. They must be at that age. I must also still be healthy to be able to attend their functions. When I'm now 40 or 50 years old, now only I'm starting off a family. So yeah, to answer your question, it's been good. It's been 15 years in marriage and we are happy.
I can tell, man. I can tell. You've got a bright smile that comes across your face when you speak of her. And I like the way you also use your language, man. You've got a bit of Zulu in there, a bit of Sotho in there. So is that also from growing up around the region, or?
Yeah, look, also from school. Like I said, in this region we speak Sesotho.
Yeah.
But the Zulu came from my mother's side because I come from a mixed relationship. My father is Portuguese. Okay. And my mother is Tsonga. But even though she's Tsonga, she speaks isiZulu. So we converse in isiZulu. So I learned isiZulu at a very young age. And then obviously being in the Vaal, people around here speak Sesotho, and that's when I picked up Sesotho.
Man.
So yeah, I think it's also assisted me in politics because I can now converse in many of the languages that are spoken in our area. But yeah, I think it emanates from a mixed race relationship.
Oh, I love it, man. I think the beauty of also being one of the younger officials, if I may call it that, right?
Yes.
And being able to connect with the people in different ways. It's not just hey, we're having this big function for you, but I've seen in some of your videos the way you interact with the guys, you're very much on the ground. So I love seeing that. Yes. But what do you think has been the challenge of being so young in such a, can I call it? I don't know how to call that position you're in. There's so much pressure around that. You're speaking now about how you can't really be there for your kids at home because of the position you're in, right? Yes. But how do you carry that, man? And how does that weigh on you? And as we lead into now this whole mental health talk, And maybe you can also think around,
Yes.
some of the stresses that's caused you around, the job that you do.
Look, I've always been a leader in my community, even before I became a councillor. Growing up, I was, I played sport. I was the captain of my rugby team at school. I was also captain at club rugby. So I've always led. And I think also I've always been a voice of my community where I grew up as well. When there were issues, in council or government, I would assist where I can and so forth. So this is basically where I started off. And look, I must tell you, it's something that I enjoy doing. So I always look forward. When I wake up in the morning, I look forward to coming to the office and to ensure that I actually do my part and improve people's lives, change people's lives, assist people and so forth. Because, it's something that I always say to politicians, that we must remember why we are here. I didn't apply for this job. I didn't submit a CV.
Sure.
I got elected into the seat, and I must never forget that. And I think that the mistake that many politicians make is once they occupy these positions, they forget. They think maybe the community reports to them, and it's the other. It should be the other way around. So I'm doing something which I enjoy. Yes, it is stressful,
Sure.
And I must be the first to admit. Many people have said that the mayoral position is a very lonely position. You need to, obviously, you can't work on your own. You have to have a team, of which I do have a team, but also trust is something that is very important in this particular position. And I'm going to share something with you, Kaugelo, that I know.
Yes, give me the exclusives, man. Give me the exclusives.
To many of my people. At times, when I talk about being lonely, you obviously being a family man too, I try to keep my work here and not take it home.
Sure.
Because then, it affects the family, it will affect my family and so forth. So I try to keep it here. And I must say I'm very blessed that I've got a very supporting wife who also understands politics. So I can discuss certain matters with her, and she will advise me to the best of her ability.
Yes.
So I think maybe that is my advantage and so forth. But when I say it's a lonely position, it does become very difficult because at times you don't know where to turn. Look, I enjoy a lot of support from my political party, I must say. But yes, it's difficult, it's stressful. Especially if you've got the passion for serving. It becomes stressful. Because, it's a choice.
Sure.
I can sit here and decide, no, I'm not going to care. I'm going to sit here and earn my salary and not care about the people that I am meant to serve. So I stress because I want things to go accordingly. And perhaps at times I become too hard on myself if there are certain failures. And I think it's things that I must accept, that, you will not always get your way. You will not always win. There will be challenges in life. And I think that is something that I'm grappling with, being a young leader, as you have mentioned. I am a second-term councillor. So I became a councillor in 2016. And so this is 2021. This is my second term.
Wow.
But my advantage is the fact that I've always been a leader in my community. So it's nothing new. So I don't believe that you need to be 70 or 80 years old to be a politician and make a difference in society. I don't believe that at all. You can lead from a very young age. If you look at the former mayor of this institution, he became a mayor at the age of 26. He was one of the youngest mayors to be here. And he did a fantastic job. I can't take that away from him, even though he's gone to greener pastures. Mind the pun, but he's young. We can't take that away from him, So, look, being young and being in a leadership position also has its advantages because I'm on the ground. You mentioned, you saw that I am on the ground. I like going physically to site. I do site visits. I get involved. I get my hands dirty. But it does get stressful, and, as men, I think going into the mental health issues, Kaugelo, we don't like to show weakness, and which is wrong in society. So it's okay to cry. It's okay to cry, but I'm not going to cry in front of you or cry in front of the ladies here. And which is wrong. I don't know, which is, we have that thing which you must always show your masculine type of side of yours, and you don't hurt, and we bottle these things in. And this is when things like depression start kicking in. And in this position, Kaugela, I tell you, it's very easy to fall into depression. And once you fall into depression, or when you have some issues that are bothering you that you are not letting out, it can also affect your job, the decisions that you take, the way you respond to your fellow colleagues and so forth. So I think it's something as men that we must talk, or as society in general, we must talk more about mental health issues that affect men, and what help is there out there for my fellow brothers out in society, because I still feel that we bottle everything in. And, also society has always taught us that, haule munnal, awatlemleul. And some of these things were passed on by even our parents, grandparents, and forefathers. They told you, a man stay strong, and so forth. So, I think, Kaugelo, it's something that we must have we must talk more about issues that affect men, and what assistance is actually available for my brothers.
Right. And I mean, I'm listening now to a lot of what you're mentioning, like being lonely, teamwork, and also the trust in your team. If you take that back to how men are functioning now in society, we come from a society that historically we haven't really had a very a peaceful society, right? So if you look at it, you could say that, all of the crimes that happened, all of the violence that happened in the past, there's a traumatic response which is happening now, right? Which is why we're seeing men commit suicide or be abusive, and all of these, can I call them less than helpful remedies to dealing with our own issues, right? So, would you say that all of these ills that we're mentioning now causing these mental health issues that we're seeing? Would you agree with that statement? And in talking about finding ways, or alternative ways of getting these guys help, or getting ourselves help, what I'm doing now currently is I'm working with the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. So he's running a men's mental health support group, right?
Yes.
And in that instance, I've seen how the world of counseling and psychology and all of that has pretty much turned into something that's like, well, you can go to a psychologist and pay X amount of money, which, let's be honest, a majority of us don't have in South Africa. So it's becoming a very layman kind of industry, right? So you want people who know how to listen, people who are empathetic, and that type of thing. Do you think we could gain much from building communities like that? And would you see that working in SA?
No, certainly it can work, Kaugela. Look, I think in general South Africans are angry. All South Africans are angry because of many social ills that are happening. The unemployment rate is at its highest in this country. And being a man, I think society has always taught us that you are the provider in a home, which puts even more pressure on males, and I think also, government in general talks about this. So we've identified Uti, there's a problem. There's this problem in society. So we have now become very comfortable just to talk about it. In our speeches. So I'll stand in a podium and I'll give this fantastic speech on mental health issues that affect men and so forth and so forth and so forth. But the implementation part of it, what are we doing about it, is lacking.
Sure.
It's spoken about maybe during the month, November month, where we say we talk about it, but it doesn't end there. December, there's this, all these other months. It's 365 days a year where men are affected by many other issues, social ill issues out there in society. So I feel that even we've got a duty as government to get involved and to run these community awareness campaigns with our brothers, to say that there is help, there is counseling, there is a way out, and go to the heart of the people. Go and talk to the people. Go to the gas. Go to the corner of those gents that are playing dice there or playing cards.
Those are the guys that need to hear it.
Yes, those are the guys that need to hear it. Go to those that are selling bonyaupe, even those that are contributing to this problem, go and speak to them and say, gents, this is what we have available to assist you. You can get out. There is a way out of the situation that you are in. But I don't think that it's done enough.
Sure.
So there's just so much anger in South Africa, man. There's, from many things, load shedding, everything, people losing their jobs and so forth, and expected to provide. So education, we must educate even our young minds. We recently started this movement together with some leaders of our community where we are saying a world needs a father. So there are kids, there are boys that are growing up without fathers.
Yes, man.
And they grow up with single mothers, being raised by mothers, but they don't have that fatherly love where you can actually give that love to a father and teach them certain things that we should be talking about as men. So it's something which is very close to my heart, and we are still, it's still in the early stages. We are trying to get it off the ground, take it to schools, look at identify children at schools who are being raised by single mothers, and just for me to go there and to become a father to them.
Sure.
Come and talk to me, let me take you out for a picnic or whatever the case may be, and just speak to them, adopt these children. You don't have to formalize it, go and sign a document to say that I'm now your father. I don't need to be your biological father to be a father to you, So I think we really need to look at the grassroots also, to say how do we deal with this problem from a very young age. So not manje nasolingana with Mayor Peter Teixeira at 40. Now you want to change Bukove manje at that age we are born. So, but I think something needs to be done. As politicians, we talk about this thing, but the implementation part of it is lacking behind. It is not there. There isn't any clear programs that we are actually proposing that will actually make a meaningful change within this particular issue that we are dealing with.
Man, I love that, man. You're speaking of so many things. I think you can tell you're on the ground because everyone does complain about that. And I think that's a general kind of conversation around gents that, we'll talk about GBV only in the month. We'll talk about sexual health only in the month, and it doesn't carry over, or there is no implementation of whatever we discussed in those conversations, right? So now there's a wonderful thing that I've been seeing. So in Zimbabwe, they've got something called the Friendship Bench. So the Friendship Bench is basically, it's a bunch of different benches that are situated all over Zim. And the idea with that is you get these grandmothers, right, or these elders who sit there on these benches and they counsel people, just anyone who needs help, who's struggling with something in the community or whatever, right? And it's such a great initiative, right? Yes. Because if you think about it, you spoke about it now, that you don't have to be someone's father or biological father to father or mentor them, right? So if we could implement that kind of thing here in SA, I think it would be such a wonderful idea, right? A wonderful touch point for people, not just for someone. I think when we start seeing an office and a building, then it's like, man, I'm gonna go in there, I have to sign all of these documents, right? Yes. But when it's like, it's something I can just do every day. I can just walk over there and get help. I think that could make it more accessible. But what do you think we could do to get people into therapy? Because therapy is one of those things, like I said in the beginning, it's a little bit expensive when you think about it, right? And I don't think it's a concept that we really understand as Black people. And I might be generalizing here. I know there are some Black people who are quite familiar with therapy and counseling and that. But I think to kind of make it in communities, when people were staying in villages or in huts or whatever, there was always like this pit where we'd come around the fire, and there was, a Barimbao liar, if you want to call it that. So do you think we need to bring back that tradition more into our communities, and how can we do that?
No, I think we should. But government has I'm going back to government. Government has a role to play in terms of making the community aware of what assistance is available to men. I mean, therapy doesn't have to be expensive. It is provided at your clinics, your local clinics. You can, and hospitals. You can ask for that type of assistance, but it's not spoken about. You see, so people don't know where to go. Now, we also need our elders in society to also be our mentors. If we've got this problem as a male, I must be able to. I must go to Ntate and he must open up to me and accept without judging me if ignore this problem. So Ubuntu also needs to come back into South Africa and to say, how do we groom and mentor these young people? Because we don't feel safe nowadays. Hey, Kaugelo, now some of also our elders, Manje, they want to be the youngsters. We see them on social media.
Exactly.
They are wearing the same clothes, but Gucci, they put it, So what you're talking about, yes, used to happen historically, where we used to sit around the fire and discuss issues that affect men and how to improve as a man in society. And we need to bring that back, have those imbizos.
Exactly.
To say, let us go and speak to people without judging. What
does that even mean?
You know those type of things, because you are discouraging the person from actually talking to people and seeking for help. Now, those are the ones outside of the therapy. You made mention to the village, people that come from maybe rural areas that might not be exposed to your local clinics like in the suburbs or in town. That's where they will depend and rely on our elders who are meant to guide us and mentor us. And when we have a problem, we can go and confine in them without being judged. You see. So I think that must also come back. That spirit must come back because it's a big problem. This is why until we start doing that, we will still have your gender-based violence issues.
Exactly.
All those suicidal issues where men also commit suicide. So we need to talk about these things more. Government must do its role, but society must also do its part. The elders, they must have these different organizations as well that come on board to actually say, let us have more of these imbizos. Let us target also the your areas in the periphery, your rural areas, the outskirts, because those people are neglected.
They
are not exposed to the clinics and where you can find your therapy most time. There's a mobile clinic that will pitch there. And it will give it deals more with chronic medication.
Exactly.
And so forth and so forth.
Now,
when you go and talk about this, I've got a problem, I've got depression, what do I do? I'm suffering because of this. People don't know, so they bottle it in. And so we need more community awareness programs as government, but equally we need to look at how do we get our elders also to come on board and also play their role and mentor and be able to be the ones that will actually listen and give advice to us.
Man. And you yourself, I mean, I've done some, I wouldn't call it therapy per se, but I've got a coach that I see every now and then. But do you believe in that? Is it something that you've taken, and has it helped you in any way?
Look, it's something that I'm looking at doing too. Having a coach, and I would advise everyone, if you can, go for it. You need to talk to someone. You must vent and talk to someone about something. Let them give you their opinion or their view on the particular challenge that you may be facing. It doesn't only have to be, when things are going tough. Exactly. Even when it's nice, go and have tea, go and laugh, have something, a conversation with. But I think a mentor, everyone should have a mentor, someone that they can confine in. Talk to someone that they can trust. I spoke about trust. Trust is very, very, very important. But, without being judged, people get judged. Nowadays, you don't know. When you come and talk to someone, there's that fear that, am I going to be seen to be weak to this particular person? Or to society? So... and it's okay to fail. We must accept that things will not always go accordingly, and move on and remain positive and so forth. So, I believe that, you should have a life coach or a mentor and so forth. Speak to someone, someone that you can trust, instead of bottling everything in, because once you start doing that, that is when, your depression kicks in and, you want to commit suicide or you want to do all those things. So there is a way out, yes.
Man. No, I love that. And the reason I bring up therapy, coaching, and all of these mental health things, I think one of the things that I've learned, with working with guys and running a group and running a podcast is that most cases, guys just want someone to listen to them. It's not even about, I've got these stories or I just need you to give me the advice now. I just need an ear, man. And if someone can just hear me, then most of our problems are solved, But one of the other things that I think we now going into GBV month and all of that is there's now this thing of cancel culture, and I know this was not in part of our plan for this conversation, but I often hear of stuff like, men don't cry or he's a dog or he's a deadbeat dad, So what do you think that kind of languaging around men does for the young guys who are coming up when you see deadbeat, trash, men are trash, and all of these negative words? And I think there is a need for them, just to highlight some of let's call it the nonsense that's going on in society that men are committing. But there's also a bit of sensitivity that I approach those kind of conversations with, because I don't know what the person is actually dealing with on a personal or an emotional level, right? So do you think that language helps the youth more especially? I mean, with us, it's, we even make jokes about it. To us, it's actually nothing, right? But for the guys who are coming up and we like, men are trash, he's a deadbeat father, he's all of these things, but there's no real explanation of, what leads a man to be labeled as that. So what do you think that does for the youth?
Look, it obviously, I don't agree with it, all these statements that are made. I mentioned to you earlier that it's important that we go back to grassroots and we educate men. And we actually, we should investigate what causes these things in men, your GBV. I'm not trying to cover up for men by saying that. But I'm saying we must look deeper into the problem. Exactly. Find out what is really bothering or what are men facing in society? What are the pressures? What do they have to deal with out there? We want to raise better fathers, better husbands, better partners, boyfriends, whatever you call it in society. And I think it's very, very important that we start at the grassroots level. So we teach the young ones already. So if they are hearing from a young age that men are trash, I mean, that particular boy child grows up thinking that, no, men are trash. So I'm already labeled as trash. So I might as well continue. I must act in that way. No, you can't. So, I think before we make such statements, we must understand the root cause of the problem. We must educate our fellow brothers to actually also seek help if there is a whatever concern that they may be facing, whatever challenge they may be facing within their lives and so forth. I don't believe in GBV at all, that men should be abusing women or other men or acting in any violent way. I strongly condemn that type of behavior. But, I don't think it's something that we must throw into the mindset of males to say that males are trash. Because you are not working, you are unemployed, you are useless as a male in society and so forth. I don't think that actually grows or we're solving the problem. I think it will remain for many years to come if that's the way we are going to respond to those particular challenges that men are facing, or whatever the consequences are of of whatever challenges they may be facing. Most of the times it's GBV and so forth. So we need to talk more. We need people that will listen, as you have mentioned, where they can actually go have this brotherhood type of setup where men can meet regularly, and not to joke about it, women's conference, and blah blah.
I hate that it's actually turned into a joke.
It's a joke. They're joking about serious things. And the thing is, that stigma of men are trash is now sticking with all of us. Men also get abused, Kauchel. Men get abused. It's just that we keep quiet about it.
Well, first of all, it's like, how am I even gonna go there and say, let's say in an instance where you were beaten by a wife, you know, that's a joke when you go into a police station.
Yes.
Or let's not even go to the cops first. Let's talk about your friends. You know, your friends will laugh at you. I mean, like, look at you, dude. You're such a big guy. What do you mean?
Label you as being weak. I mean, they label you as being weak. Window danger and a shower fast. Nobody should be abusing anyone of the two. So, look, maybe females or women in general talk more about it, but males don't talk about it. We need to talk about it too, as men, you know, and come out. If you're being abused, doesn't matter physically, verbally, or in whichever manner you're being abused, go and seek help. Seek assistance. There is a way out. Talk about it. Because you bottle this in. One day you explode. You do something that you will regret for the rest of your life. So again, we're going back to what we spoke about earlier about the whole culture and the perception that is out there that men must never show weakness. And that has been drilled into our heads. But, you know, we don't. You know, you cannot show any sign of weakness because you're going to be undermined not only by you know, females or women, but also by your fellow brothers that are going to be judging you. So what happens? You end up on your own. Or you bottle this thing, and one day you explode.
And it will come out, man.
It will come out. So we must show. It's okay to show the softer side of us as males. It's okay. Carla, if you have to cry, man. Cry if you have to cry, Kaukelo. Cry if you. But also our sisters must not be the first to judge us when we cry.
Yeah.
Because they too. Alangu. We hear them. Look, I'm a public rep. I deal with the community. I'm on the ground. I talk to people. I hear what people say, the statements that they make when there's a problem. Ntate na ha kenye bruhu. Asi ena parang ruhu ka tlung. Wa para mme bro. You know those type of statements. It's wrong. It's really, really, really wrong. So as much as we are speaking to men, yes, it's a month where we talk to men, we talk about mental health, but equally we must also educate our sisters in society.
Yes, man.
To say that, man, you know, I'm not covering up for the actions of males and so forth, but I'm saying that working together we can achieve this end goal and we can create a better society for men.
Come on, man.
Yeah, it is possible. It's there. It's possible, but we need to work together without judging.
I love that, man. And you know, there's a funny report that I always refer to, and you said it now that when you cry, then you know our women, our wife or girlfriend, whatever, will be like, but this guy, you know. And I think one of those problems is most cases because we don't talk as guys as well. We talk about everything else except for our problems or stuff that's really pressing in our lives, right? So the first person that usually gets to hear that softer side of us is our wife, you know. And eventually then your wife then starts becoming kind of like your therapist. And she's not there to deal with your mental health issues all the time, you know. So I think it's also equally in saying that women should understand where guys are coming from. I think men also need to find for themselves, you know, circles, groups, like you say, in these or a friend that you grew up with, someone that you know you can have a conversation with, and there is no judgment in that, you know.
I agree.
And I want to go into something that I think we should have gone into a bit earlier as well. You are mixed race, right?
Yes.
And it's a wonderful thing, and I want to just see how you would kind of speak to that. So historically, with Black people, there's certain phrases, and you mentioned some of them as we're speaking. There's certain things that come with culture, tradition, that when it comes into the medical world, it's like those terms don't exist for us. Stuff like depression didn't really exist for Black people, right? So do you think we then going into now this very Western way of being, right? Because hey, we incorporate, we're working, and obviously, if you adopt the westernized world, you're obviously going to adopt all the issues and problems that come with it, right? So we are here in Midvaal now talking about depression. I'm having some anxiety, you know. what were those things even called back then? So do you think the medical world and the way the language has changed has kind of confused us as Black people, on the ground, as to like, yeah, well, I hear this whole depression thing, but to me, it's like, no. I think, does that language even resonate for some of the people?
Look, times have changed, as you have mentioned. And this is why I said more community awareness campaigns that speak to these issues that affect men in society should be spoken more about. We as government, and I'm going to throw it back to government, the Department of Health should be doing more. I think now I'm not saying that I'm blaming them that they may not be doing or driving enough campaigns or programs to address this issue.
Sure.
But times have changed. We are more sort of urbanized now.
Yeah.
And maybe now for you and I, we understand we understand that we can get help.
Sure.
And there is a way out of it. But my brother, who is in Hazelview, Mkuhlu, somewhere in the rural, the outskirts of this country, still believes, Guti, there's no depression, like you said. It doesn't exist.
Sure.
And no matter whatever he is experiencing there, in his area, he feels Guti has to be strong. And daughter is the man, and no one else can tell him in whatever issue that he faces out there. And those people are not being reached. We're not reaching out to those people. We may have moved with times out here, more in your urban developed areas, but there are still people out in the peripheries. I spoke about the periphery areas that people out there should be targeted. They still have got that old, I don't want to say they're not westernized. But they still got that, they still living in that old culture where Guti, men don't cry, there's no depression, there's no anxiety, and so forth. And that gets transferred now or gets filtered down to their children as well. And they continue. So how on earth are we going to fix or deal with this problem and end it? So we must look at additional campaigns, programs as government that we can drive. And even us as brothers out here that understand this topic we've also got a duty to play outside of government to say we must go and educate and have these imbizos with our brothers and say, what are you going through, and understand and be an ear to listen. You'll be surprised. People will talk when you give them that time and space to say, tell me, what are your challenges? What do you go through as a male in your community? Yes, number one, you are and not only unemployed, even employed. Doesn't matter what you are facing. There are challenges that affect everybody. Nobody's immune to this mental health issue or abuse or any other social ill will. Nobody is immune in society. But I think we all have a choice to do something about it, change it, talk about it. And it must not only be during that period of the month, November month, or when it's GBV, when we talk about the 16th day of activism. It's things we must talk about generally throughout society. But also, Kaugelo, you spoke about, earlier you spoke about all these social ills, everything that's going wrong in the country currently, and what does that, or what effect does that have in behavior of some of our people? It does contribute. To think of it now, it contributes. Because when you go there, you're going to hear, when you start listening to them, they're going to tell you about all these things. About the fact that the unemployment rate is over 50-60% in the country. I'm unemployed. I need work. I've lost my girlfriend. I've lost my wife. She's gone to someone that is working. I feel less of a man in society. I'm useless. I can't do anything. I'm sebenzi. There is no hope. For us. So what I'm saying is the point is that we need to get more, we need to drive more programs, both government as well as the private sector. What is the private sector doing about it? They need to come on board also. What are they doing about it in this type of challenge? So what we're talking about today doesn't take priority over load shedding. People remember load shedding, man. So we're talking about load shedding. we're talking about the high unemployment rate in the country and trying to find possible solutions for that, to address that. But we're neglecting this one. So this type of conversation, I think in society are treated as just a by the way type of a conversation. So we must wait first for a male to beat up a female or kill someone. Then we resuscitate, we start that talks again. What are we talking? Then people like myself go on those podiums nationally and we go and we talk about it's wrong to do this. But what programs, what are you doing 365 days a year in terms of dealing with this particular problem or addressing this particular problem and finding possible solutions? So there are no tangible solutions that both government and the private sector are actually, that I'm, from my point of view, that are actually really focusing on addressing this particular problem that we have. Look, from a Midvaal municipality point of view, it's something that we talk about all the time. To say, but as much as I talk about government on a broader scale, the question is also to me to say, but what are you doing about it?
Exactly.
And I can tell you that within my office, we've got appetite. We're working with different stakeholders to say, but how do we have these individuals? How do we go into the community and actually, outside of the service delivery issues, you know, potholes or my street light is not working. Let us talk about at home.
Like
how's things at home? How are you? How's things going? You know, how's the children? So we are neglecting that because the mindset, we are so focused on all the negative things that are happening that we neglect this one.
So we're talking about the spirit of Ubuntu and just how families have kind of abandoned that sharing spirit, man.
It's been abandoned, and you know, we spoke about the whole Western culture and so forth. I think Ubuntu doesn't need to be actually brought in on the Western culture or whatever. It's something that where you can have your neighborly love as well. You know, in the olden days as a kid growing up, I remember Umama could go next door and ask for sugar if the sugar ran out. You know, and the neighbor would gladly provide Umama with sugar and vice versa. When they needed something, they could come over and so forth. So we need to bring that back in our community to say, you know, we must know and love our neighbors. It's not happening. People live next to each other for years with not knowing or even greeting. You know, we have so fenced or bottled ourselves off, you know, as society that it is very scary. So even if someone is facing abuse next door, being abused or being beaten up or whatever challenge, you as the neighbor would not know because you don't know who your neighbor is. You don't, that neighborly love and that spirit is no longer there, you know, and we need to look out for one another. I'm a big fan of reviving your street committees.
Oh, wow.
Remember the street committees?
I remember the street committees. Yes.
Some people say, no, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. We need to know what's happening there. Who Makumalo, man, Koning, man. Because tomorrow Makumalo may be facing abuse or being abused. And she may be seeking assistance or help. And, you know, if the community is not there to do so, to help or to offer a helping hand, then we are going to become a failed society. You know, so reviving the street committees, it's not about being nosy or wanting to know what's happening in people's households. It's not about that. It's about saying that if there is a problem, you know who you can turn to. You don't need to go very far. You know, you don't need to travel to another province to go and speak to your sister or your brother in that province. But you can actually get help right next door or right within your street where you can walk. When there's a problem, you can shout and you can be assisted. So we must bring that back too. You know, and those are things we used to take for granted. You know, in Pempe, if somebody has been mugged in the street, those years they would blow the whistle, you know, and the community would come out and assist. You know, that has fallen away nowadays.
Now we have someone in the street committee now giving the criminals a tip off that hey, they're coming to raid you tomorrow, so hide your stash. You know?
Exactly.
That's what's happening in community now.
So the spirit of Ubuntu must come back. It must be brought back. It must not just be spoken about. We must ask the question, but how are we implementing Ubuntu? What programs, what initiatives are being driven to bring back that spirit of Ubuntu? South Africa is a lovely country.
Yes, right.
We are lovely people as South Africans. And my biggest fear is that we are moving in a direction where it's everybody for themselves.
Yeah.
And you spoke about the family, that the focus is only on my family.
Yeah.
I regard all of us as family, as South Africans. And that's how we should see one another. And it's okay to greet. I go out as a mayor. I go and talk to people, and people get shocked that I will, when they see me, they probably expect that I'm bringing some bad news.
Sure.
But sometimes I just pitch at your place and say, how's things? How are you doing?
How's life? See you. Sure.
How's your life here? How's things in Midvaal? What can I do to change things and make your life better? And people get shocked that the mayor drove all the way to 30 kilometers away from the office to my area to come and ask how's life. And I think more people should be doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
To say, how's things going? How's the children? How's the family?
Because you've separated politicians. The people that you're actually serving are so separate from you.
Yes.
It's like we're looking at you like you're sitting, up on the mountaintop and you're here at the bottom. Can we get some kind of relationship going there?
We've distanced ourselves from, and not only politicians, neighbors. Get to know who your neighbor is. Because tomorrow, if you have a challenge, you're able to turn to your neighbor.
Sure.
They can react quicker than the police can, especially nowadays in our society.
Hey.
So, we won't go there.
Let's not go there.
But, your neighbor is right there. So, your neighborly love, and we must bring that back, Kaugelo. The spirit of Ubuntu, the loving, being a loving society again, being a caring society. We must bring that back and show this affection. We're so stuck up, we're so serious, we're so angry as South Africans. And I understand why South Africans are angry. I don't want to discuss politics with you, Kaugelo. This is not why we're having this particular conversation. But people are just angry with everything, with government in general.
It's like one small thing goes wrong.
We're angry with everything. And we're missing out on the simple things in life. To be happy, to talk to one another, enjoy, uplift one another, and so forth. We're missing all those type of topics. And when you start talking about those things, people look at you as if you're crazy.
Sure.
Because the mindset already is people are so, I don't want to repeat what I said to the anger part, but I think there is a way out. We must just go back to being a loving community or society and seek help. As government, we must make that information available to people to say that when you're facing a problem, this is the person you can talk to. We must get the private sector also involved. To say, but what is your role in dealing with some of these issues that we face as society? It cannot be left alone to government, but the private sector, I believe. But also, there are many leaders in society. This is why I brought in the private sector to say it mustn't just be politicians and government. The private sector, the elders, the elderly people, our mentors. Let us mentor. The life coaches must come up. Let us talk to people. Let's talk regularly to people. Let's cry if you have to cry.
Sure.
It's okay to cry as a male figure.
Sure.
There's nothing wrong without being judged. And those that judge must not judge. They must not go into that route. Get to understand what the root cause of the problem may be. Nobody just wakes up one morning and decide to go beat someone up.
No, there's a reason.
There's always something behind it. Unfortunately, we have become so reactive to the problems. This is when something has already happened, this is when people like me will go on the podium and start talking about these things. But we must also be proactive in terms of dealing with some of these issues and say, let's talk about them early. Let's educate the young ones, those that are, the generation that's coming. We've got a duty to play to ensure that we improve our current situation now so that it is not faced by those that are coming up. I've got a 10-year-old boy and a 4-year-old boy as well. And as a father, I've got a role to play to ensure that I educate my sons to say it is wrong to beat up your wife or your girlfriend. It is wrong. So as a parent, as an adult, and as an elder, we've also got a role to play in our community and our society. And for me, it's not just my kids. Every boy, every young man out there, I've got a duty to go and educate him, to say to strongly condemn issues of GBV and so forth.
Man, and we're going on now, just about to close, but I like that you're mentioning the youth now. And, one of the challenges that's facing the youth, I think, there's a big party culture that's going on right now. There's a big drug culture that's going on right now. But one of the bigger things I think that's concerning is sexual health. There's a lot of teenage pregnancy, and I think the age now to be legally pregnant is now being dropped, or there's always a chop and change in that. So what do you think we can say to the younger people coming up? It's just like, man, you need to be careful. You need to put on a condom. You don't need to be having sex before you at the right age. What kind of message can you or advice could you give to the youth now? In terms of sexual health, that is.
Look, young people need to be responsible. And I always say that, they must abstain as much as possible. We talk about sexual issues. The time will come. You will know when you are ready. And, it always worries me, Kafela, when we go into the festive season and the closure of schools and so forth, because this is where history has shown us, this is when you face all these type of challenges. Exactly. There's a lot of partying that's going to happen. People are planning trips. Young people are downing pens. You remember the culture? Let's down the pens and so. And a lot of mistakes happen during that period. And I want to strongly say that, all our young people must be responsible. You don't need to be forced into having a sexual relationship or a sexual intercourse. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say no. And, our brothers must also understand that no means no. So that is something that is very, very, very important. But if you are already sexual active, it is important that you do condomize and you regularly test for your sexual transmitted disease and those type of things to ensure that, you don't just worsen the situation that you are currently in and so forth. So I'm calling on all young people to say that be responsible. There are those that, when we refer to someone young in this country, we talk from about 16 going downwards. If you are around 15, 16, you should not be engaging in sexual activities and so forth. This is why I'm saying that you don't need to be pressurized. There's peer pressure also that is happening, that is being experienced by some of our young people. Please do not succumb to peer pressure from anybody. It is your future that is in your hands. Rather, you should be, the time of being sexually active will come at the right moment. What I'm saying, Kafelo, is that you don't need to succumb to peer pressure from your fellow colleagues. And those, if you are aware of young people that are being forced into it, it's your duty to also raise that particular issue with the relevant people to ensure that those people are not going through. And if people need assistance is there. Our local clinics are open and available to discuss issues of family planning, your testing of STIs, your sexual health type of issues. Those services are available. But what I'm saying is that young people need to be responsible, especially during this period.
Come on, guys. Put a condom on, man, if you're going to have sex. If you're underage, please just keep your guy in your pants. Yeah?
The other thing is, we spoke about some of those the season that we're in, or some of the temptations that are there, the downing of pens. Now, I'm still a young man, so I feel very old, but I know that I'm still young at heart. And I remember when I was at high school, there was always this, we're going to wash the pens, type of activities. Now, washing the pen also speaks to alcohol, the abuse of alcohol, or consumption of alcohol. And I think, Kaugelo, that is where the problem starts. Because when you are under the influence of alcohol, I'm not sure mentally if you are aware of the decisions that you are taking. So you should not be drinking underage. We strongly condemn that as government. And as a parent, I have a teenage daughter, and she knows what I say to her at home. But as parents, I'm also calling on parents to also account for their children, especially during this period. It should be 365 days a year. But the temptations and the season that we find ourselves in, this is when many mistakes get made. So this is why I spoke about the peer pressure, that young people should not succumb to peer pressure. It is okay to say no. You must not be forced into drinking alcohol. You must not be forced into having a sexual intercourse. You must not be forced to doing anything that makes you uncomfortable as a young person. So we need to be responsible. We need the future leaders. Tomorrow I'm no longer here as the mayor. We need the future doctors. We need the future lawyers, the future accountants, the politicians, and so forth. So the future is in the hands of our young people. But how are you going to get there if you start at an early age? Teenage pregnancy is a big problem.
It's a big one. It's
big problem in our community. The abuse of alcohol by young people, 18 to 35, is a massive problem. So consuming alcohol at times irresponsibly may lead to many other factors that we've discussed earlier as well within our conversation. So I'm calling on all young people to say that be responsible. Be responsible, do not succumb to peer pressure.
Man. Jeez, guys. Well, I don't know if I want to add anything to that, man. It's been a very insightful conversation. And I'm very grateful to have, had this with you in a very informal way, if I may call it that. And I don't know if you have any last words that you want to add, man, any words of inspiration, a motto maybe you want to share with the people to just close down the year?
Look, Kaugelo, I always say to people, Guti, there is a solution to the problems we're facing as a country. There is a way out to any problem that you may be experiencing out there. Ask for help. Ask for help. And, if mistakes happen to everybody.
Sure.
And my team will tell you that I'm always the first to acknowledge if there is a mistake, if I've made a mistake. And we must learn that in society. We must work hard as young people too. We must, to change the society or to better our position, is going to require the assistance of everybody. Government owes you nothing. So that we must always remember. So we must work hard. Education is important. Let us go to school. Let us take up the government interventions that are out there already. Let education is important. Let us be hard workers. Let us stay away from crime. Let us not succumb to peer pressure from anybody. Let us be good people. Let us be that country, that South Africa, that loving country, that spirit of Ubuntu. Let us bring that back. So I'm calling on every South African to say that each and every one of us have got a duty to play to make this country a better place. So I love my country. I will do everything within my power to ensure that I do become the change that I want. I've got 3 beautiful children that are there that I will raise. I'm a husband. I'm a parent. There are many others like myself, and I want to remind them to be parents and to be loved and promote peace and prosperity in our communities, in our families. We must speak more about it. Let's get together as families. And my family is not only my family in my residence. My family is my neighbor. Okay. You are my brother. I must be available. I must be available to you should you need to talk about something. Let us avail ourselves in society. Let us not be selfish. with information that we may have that may empower our fellow brother or fellow sister. Let us share with them. Let us bring the spirit of God.
Oh, guys, I don't know if you're not inspired by that, man, but I'm truly inspired. And Mr. Peter Teixeira, as I said in the beginning, I appreciate you, my brother, for welcoming us. And thank you for this. And I really hope you took note. I really hope you put all of the stuff that we spoke about into practice. Don't just listen to this and just have a laugh about it. Please be responsible, take care of yourself, and if you really do need help, man, reach out. There's a lot of help out there. We'll add some of the places that you can get help in Midvaal. We'll add that in the show notes. We'll add that in the description of the YouTube video. And man, from myself, councillor Habiani, I'm out of here. Peace and love.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.